Hello, everyone.
Hello.
This is Anya and Ed from our freezing cottage on the mountain.
We're back after a long break.
Yep. The spring has arrived, the swallows are here, but it's still freezing, and we haven't stopped putting the logs on the fire, really.
No.
So there's a lot has happened, actually.
Yes.
And so I'd like to talk about how we did a lot of exploring around our local patch, actually, recently.
Yeah.
And kind of confronting our worst fears. Some really excited Connemara ponies and angry dogs. Ed just said that he feels sick.
Told you there'd be dogs. It's a bloody Pomeranian as well. Oh, jeez. I thought that one had died. Remember we used to see the woman walking it? So this is the butcher's house.
Uh-oh.
Oh, that's a proper dog. That's a black lab.
I'm not getting out of the car.
What if the dude's here?
Just don't run him over.
Or the cat. Man, this place is alive. He just yawned. He yawned, you know? But somehow
They're
I just
magpies.
feel
They're not. I don't think they're gonna be nests around Sparrowhawk
you're
nests. You know, they're magpies. Let's just leave. And also the.
Oh, jeez! Look at that Pomeranian go! Jesus! Now we. Oh my God! She's watching us from the kitchen window. Job done, Pomeranian. Whew. Okay, so. House number 2.
Didn't have to get out of the car.
Didn't have to get out of the car. It's amazing. Like I was feeling full of confidence. You know. Yeah, I'm just gonna. Just a Labrador. It's gonna be fine. I was scared. The Pomeranian I was scared of. That thing would.
Do you think they maul people to death?
It'd give you this tiny little teeth. It'd be like being attacked by a stoat. It would though. Just latch onto you. You know.
She wouldn't let go.
Can you imagine the tiny?
You'd have
teeth?
to actually kill it before she'd release you. So today we are searching around the area where we live, actually, which involves stepping out of our comfort zone a little bit and searching around private people's land with potentially having to ask them for permission to walk around. But we're just kind of going to go into this valley. There's a stream, which is very promising, and hopefully we'll not meet any bulls or anything like that.
Yeah.
How do you feel, Ed?
I feel actually okay because there's nobody around. Everyone's out at work or whatever. We're out in their other fields.
What's your worst fear right now?
Shotguns? I don't know. Nah. Sort of. Well, you know me. You know.
What is it?
Sort of guard dogs.
Big angry sheepdogs.
Yeah. There's like. Yeah. Let's wander down here this path and see what we can see.
But actually, one of the little roads that we walked on is a boreen. And what is a boreen? It's a little kind of Irish.
I know why you're
Um,
mentioning this because you want to talk about what the definition of a boreen is. So
Well, I think it's interesting for the listeners.
Yeah.
A lot of the roads actually we walk on around here are called boreens, and they're basically kind of little trucks, very narrow roads where only one vehicle can pass because they're measured as one cow. What is it? One cow across and one cow sideways.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
And that's what a boreen is.
So that if somebody's driving their cows, if two people are driving their cows, they can
Reverse.
They can do a deal, and one of the cows can turn around and go back with, I don't know, so they can reverse or so they can pass each other.
And a lot of those roads have traditionally had sort of right of way, so people could actually walk across them. But now a lot of farmers have fenced them out. So very often we find ourselves jumping over the fences and not really knowing whether we will have a very angry person or very, very nice and jolly looking guy.
Yeah, to be fair, all our experiences so far have been okay, eh? We haven't had anybody telling us to piss off.
No.
Or
In fact, most people are just very confused about what we're asking, so they just say, yeah, go in and just do it.
Yeah.
Like that farm, the farmyard where we had a look around. He thought we were from some kind of.
He thought we were doing some kind of scientific survey. Like we didn't sort of. I mean, we did obviously correct him. We were honest about what we were doing, but initially we obviously gave the impression that they were on official business.
Yeah. Which
is cool because it allowed him to. He took an interest and let us wander around a wee bit.
Yeah, it's a nice little patch. We've revisited it ever since, and in fact we've been revisiting quite a few places that we mentioned in the previous podcast. We went to, mostly it's done after work really, and I would say that probably the number of the potential sites have kind of shrank recently. Not because after we revisited them, I didn't really feel like we found a lot of activity apart from a few of them, you know. So we went to them.
So we should talk about them individually. The last episode, we were feeling pretty happy because we got up to something like 5 possible sites.
Mm-hmm. So one of them is a field.
So we called it the field site.
Yeah, and initially we found some plucking posts around there, pluckings from last year.
Yeah,
and we know that sparrowhawks lived there last year. So we went back and we saw a couple of kills, mostly just explosion of feathers from a blue tit. And the wagtail, which I actually thought was a pigeon. You can just imagine my excitement.
I don't really know why you managed to think there was a pigeon
because I feel like every time I see something, it must be sparrowhawk and it must be a large kill and it must be, if it's a nest, it must be a sparrowhawk's nest. If it's a kill, it must be a pigeon done by a female. If it's a casting, a pellet, it must be, even though it's probably a poop from a pine marten, it must be a sparrowhawk's casting. You know, I just get so excited.
Yeah.
And a lot of the recordings, I think I re-listened, and it's me going, "Oh my god, a nest!" Even though I just saw maybe a blue tit shivering in the tree. So that was one of them. So that's still a possibility. We will go back there again, the field. We went to the golf course as well.
Yeah.
That's where we think maybe we saw a sparrowhawk flying.
Yeah, and we went back, and there was this thing which in the evening light the last time we visited looked just like it might be a nest. And I looked again this time, and, I think it might just be some kind of growth on this pine tree. It looks like it's made of pine needles. It doesn't look quite right. It
just
looks like
cancer.
It might be a bit of, like literally. So I don't know, something like that.
And and we walked and held hands in despair.
Did we hold hands in despair?
Yeah, we did. We walked for a long time after work. I thought I was going to drop down. but then we also went to the clearing where we were pointed to a nest before, and we actually looked around again and did not see any.
Still nothing.
Well, the thing is that we are looking for visible sites of sparrowhawks, like kills and plucking posts. But really, from what we're learning more and more, sparrowhawks are very, they do their own thing. They have rituals that might not really correspond to what we think, is a traditional sparrowhawk method. The nest sites could be very in various trees, and sometimes they might not even have any pluckings around the nest. So it makes it much more difficult. So I don't know. We just kind of, but we have been finding nests, and a lot of them, and that's been kind of exciting because we're approaching this time of year when birds are actually nesting. So rapidly. So we're finding nests around. A lot more of them, and every nest is potentially a sparrowhawk nest.
Yeah,
and
at
for
least
me,
in our eyes.
Yeah, definitely a sparrowhawk nest.
But I think we watched a nest yesterday for maybe an hour that we thought was really promising, and we saw no activity around it at all. And you just think it might be an old nest,
What do they actually look like? Like, what does sparrowhawk?
I was hoping we were going to see a pigeon coming or going or something like that, but we didn't see anything coming or going.
Maybe for our listeners, like how does a sparrowhawk nest look like?
Geez, you're asking me, how do I know? I don't know what a sparrowhawk nest look like. I'll tell you when I see one. You know, we've seen so many, like...
They're all in this sort of canopy, and they're supposed to be sort of flattish platforms in the canopy of a pine tree But, you know, we watched this video recently.
You always use the expression flattish platform. I just, like...
I know.
The stuff I've read, the sort of shallow saucer is more what I'm thinking. That's the phrase I've got in my head when I'm looking for them. And I'm looking at something that needs... I'm looking for something that needs to be a foot to a foot and a half across.
Mm. But the mirror...
And I've seen things like that, and you say that's too big, and then you pick out nests, and I say, well, that's far too small, you know? Mm. So we obviously don't, you know, we don't have the same feeling
basically
about
I have no idea. and yeah, every tree seems... And the fact that we actually see those nests, it also makes me doubt that they're sparrowhawk nests, because sparrowhawks are notoriously elusive. They just want to hide away from everything. So when we do find a nest, and it's very visible from a road... I kind of doubt that it's actually a sparrowhawk. But then who knows? Like this video we watched, Sparrowhawk, amazing Sparrowhawk video we watched by David Culley.
Oh yeah.
Talk about
so it's called The Secret Life of the Sparrowhawk. It's a DVD which we ordered directly from him. It's a funny story. The DVD was made, the film was made by this one guy basically over 10 years on an island somewhere in England, an island in a canal system somewhere, and he just got to know the nest sites, the plucking posts, the hunting sites. He had cameras obviously set up for months and months in different places. Amazing footage he managed to get.
It's a very intimate life of a couple, a sparrow couple.
Yeah,
and you see some very unexpected footage of them, for example, mating.
Yeah,
and how they bond with each other. He describes this process of them bonding over many, many months, from December, sort of January till springtime, and how sometimes the female mounts the male, sometimes the male mounts the female, and how the male, well, according to him, I'm sure there's variation between different sparrows, but particularly this couple, the male starting to build a nest, and then the female hunts a lot,
bringing him food.
Yes, and you see this amazing footage of her calling with the remains of a pigeon after she's had her, full, and she's calling for the male to come over, and he just kind of abandons the nest for a second, and he flies over to her, and you can see how terrified he is of her, because she's so much bigger, and he just kind of, grabs the pigeon, and the other way around as well. When he hunts and he calls her, you see how terrified he is of her. He just kind of leaves her with a kill, and she just grabs it from him, and so the alarm calls. It's very beautiful. So if anyone is interested in watching something very, very moving, actually, I found it very moving. I would really recommend watching this film. Yeah, and also obviously this will support this amazing guy, who's clearly so passionate about it. But then he also talked about the long-eared owls who moved in.
Oh, Tony owls. It was Tony owls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we've been finding some interesting owly things on our outings. Actually, some of the nests we found, we think that they're probably long-eared owls' nests. Yeah. And we found them in this new place we will call it the Mossy Woods.
Mossy Woods, yeah. Because they're very mossy.
Very, very mossy.
And it's a patch of, it's quite a large woodland, so we're a bit kind of feeling as though it's a bit too large, and it's attached to huge bits of woodland around the loch.
Why did we go there actually in the first place? What was that?
Oh, because some colleagues of ours saw sparrowhawks on 2 occasions on successive days, flying over their heads basically into this woodland, and one of them one of the birds looking like it was flying up into a branch after it entered the woodland. So obviously that was really exciting, We found a few pluckings, not very many.
Not really. We didn't find anything. No, we didn't. That was the very interesting thing, because we found several nests quite high up in the tree, and which looked perfectly like sparrowhawk's nests, but we didn't find any pluckings. What we found were owl pellets with bones in them. But it was a very dense, mossy woodland, very difficult to walk through. And we kind of split you went in one direction and I went in another. But in the end, we actually did not find any signs of plucking.
I thought I heard a sparrowhawk calling.
Yeah.
Because I suddenly noticed that all of the birds nearby were just alarm calling, and then I thought I heard that one kind of mewing.
How does it go?
It's like, something like that. It sounds. It's the sort of call that if it wasn't in the woods and it was much louder, it sounded like it should be echoing around some American canyon country. You know, it's this kind of sounds just like a bird of prey. You know, like.
Mm-hmm.
But in this situation, it's a much smaller bird,
like big
and
buzzard.
but it's in the woods, so it sounds. You know, it doesn't sound as dramatic or whatever. Anyway, so that was I heard. You know, but it might have been trick of the ears. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I think also we've been feeling like, you know, because you're saying this, like time's rushing on. All these birds are nesting, you know, and the sparrows have got to be nesting now. In this film, the males started building nests in like
December,
January or something.
Yeah.
And you know, and even through late snows, they were trying to continue the construction of the nest, and this just kind of freaked us out a little bit. That okay, maybe these spars are somewhere in the south of England, but I think we were both a bit like, oh no. They could be at this really advanced stage already, you know. Especially
that you just don't know with the summer and spring and autumn and winter we've had here. Who knows? Like everything's messed up.
Yeah.
But then also one of the reasons might be why we don't find any pluckings is because they're plucking them in trees. You know, like in this film, a lot of the kills were plucked high up in the trees, and you just wouldn't see anything. You know.
Yeah.
What remains is just a few feathers scattered on mossy branches, and that's pretty much it. So I don't know, but there was a really amazing site that we went to, and that gives us, so all those things that happened to us in the last few weeks kind of made us feel a little bit of despair, I think.
Well, anxiety,
the kind of the pressure to feel like what we're doing is not enough, even though we're spending pretty much every single hour we are awake looking for things like that, for things like sparrow plucking posts. It just nothing is happening. So we went.
Or like lots is happening, but we're not seeing it. You know, so like we'll talk to people and they'll be like, "Oh, I saw a sparrowhawk like flying right in front of me, or having a bath, or like plucking a kill."
But there's a lot of anecdotal evidence that there are sparrowhawks around.
Yeah, I mean, we know there's sparrows around them. It was unfortunately, we don't seem to see them very often. You know, we're just kind of
maybe because we are looking too hard.
Well, yes, quite. So actually, we learned a lesson in that yesterday. We don't want to talk about that now. We're kind of skipping around in time.
No, I think we should talk about the amazing site.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the amazing site.
There are two amazing sites. Obviously, we've been to the island.
Okay.
And we revisited it. One of the biggest things that we did in the last 2 weeks is we went and slept over on the island, which was very exciting. We had our BV bags and a tarp and a fire with a hammock with some sausages and chocolate buttons and
not in the same dish.
Well, no,
but kind of for the same
pretty
breakfast.
Much, yeah. And bananas. It was amazing, and we really wanted to see if we can see anything, any activity. And you think you did hear a sparrowhawk
in the
morning, and then I stayed over where you canoed back to the car. I stayed over and decided to just wander around. I did find a kill of I think it's some kind of thrush, I guess. So I followed my nose and I kept walking, and suddenly I saw and I found a nest. But again, obviously when I saw the nest, I thought it's definitely Sparrowhawk's nest. Now looking back on it in my mind, after we found all these different nests, I'm realizing that it probably wasn't.
Why?
Because it wasn't a conventional place. It was not in a pine tree. It was just some kind of beech sort of tree, and I just felt it wasn't very high enough, and maybe it wasn't big enough, unless it was still at the stage of, early stages of being built. I'd like to go back and look at it again, because the island seemed like I would say it's still a high priority on our list. It's probably the one that we've seen the most interesting and largest plucking posts. And
Yeah.
I feel like we're slightly confused. When we're talking about plucking post, we're kind of using it in the same way as we talk about kills.
Yeah.
Because actually what we're saying is, like, we've seen kills. We have not yet seen any plucking posts. A plucking post is where a male kills and plucks consistently over a period of time. So you see an accumulation of different types of feathers, and it's the same spot where he goes to pluck prey before he takes it to the female.
In
and
view
the
of the
chicks.
nest.
Yes. We have not actually found anything of the sort. I don't think so. I think we found individual kill sites where a male plucks it or a female plucks it and then they eat it together. But there's not really any... Like, since we revisited all these places, I have not found evidence of several kills in the same spot. Except for this latest amazing place, the garden.
Yeah, we're going to call it the garden.
It's awesome. Now,
Yeah.
do you want to talk about why did we go there?
We went there because two people we know well, who've been doing falconry for a long time, took under license a sparrowhawk of their own 16 years ago from this garden. It's in an area that's surrounded by farmland and sort of marsh almost.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of reeds and patches of water. Very desirable from a sparrowhawk point of view. Lots of bird life around. But in terms of nesting places, it's a kind of an island in this big area. So it's obviously a really attractive place to nest. So we went there, and
it's quite far from anywhere else we've been.
Yeah,
as well.
It is. It's like it is. We drove up to the house, which is right inside. It's almost hidden, surrounded by tall conifers. The whole garden is probably, how wide did you say it is? 30 meters?
Yeah, 30 to 50.
30, 40 meters across.
Yeah.
In a kind of a rough square.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a house in the middle of this. And we drove up and rang the bell, introduced ourselves, and the lady who's living there remembered the previous visitors who came to take a hawk away as if it was just a couple of years ago, and let us have a look around.
It must have been so strange for her. The connection, she's got these amazing animals living in her garden, and then every 16 years a couple comes to take one away. I feel like we should interview her.
Maybe we should.
But it's an incredible site. I mean, we found actually really exciting things there. What did we find?
Loads of stuff, because it's partly because it's a conifer garden, basically, and it's so dense that the ground doesn't get a lot of rainfall underneath the pines, and also because I think she doesn't have any pets, so I don't think there's no livestock there, so they're not disturbing the ground. So I think stuff that lies on the ground stays there for a while. It was very windy when we went there, which you can hear on the tape, unfortunately. But even with a lot of wind there, the stuff that's on the ground is staying on the ground. So kills that might be very, very old, even more than a year or two old, are still, as far as I can see, still look very fresh.
The sparrows that live here, there's all these undisturbed kills, in such a small space. This is the really impressive thing about this place. This is what gives the impression of it being just sort of murderous. There's just stuff everywhere once you start looking.
So we found kill after kill after kill, feathers all over the place.
It's like black or dark down feathers, and then with a sort of beige tip.
Loads of interesting species. I mean,
large ones,
small ones, really unusual ones, birds that you wouldn't see, like you wouldn't necessarily see if you were going to look for them. I mean, as a bird watcher, you'd be really delighted.
The two things that stand out for me were the presence of magpies in the diet. and water rail.
Yeah, the water rail.
The water rail was the kill that we found, and it was clearly sort of few hours ago, like
or even
minutes.
minutes maybe. It's like it was so freshly plucked, with all this like lovely fresh down sitting on the top of the forest floor, on the top of this ivy.
And the beak.
And the
had
beak.
Saliva and sort of moisture in it.
Yeah, like the meat where the beak had been kind of ripped off was still wet. So it felt like maybe we would even.
It was practically warm.
It just happened. Well, there was no. The only thing left was the beak and these feathers.
Yeah.
And we had no idea what it was. No clue. It was like this sort of short wader's bill, red colour. I was thinking, what could that be? It's too short to be a red shank. What could it be and everything? Couldn't work it out at all. I had no clue until we got home.
Yeah. And your magic tracks and signs book.
Yeah.
It's really, really amazing.
It's
I felt
a very
like
useful
we never
book.
used it before, but now we're using it so much. Well, I never used it before. I'm being introduced into the world of Edward Colson.
It's a great book. It's published by Hamlin. It's called Tracks and Signs of the Birds of Britain and Europe. And it's great if you find a feather. It gives you the length measurements for different feathers from different types of birds. It shows you pictures of the feathers. It's amazing. Bird footprints, skulls, like pellets, like
everything,
all sorts of stuff.
You name it.
You name it.
It's true. Like we were talking about how I think after this experience with sparrowhawks, we will never look in the world in the woodland in the same way as we used to. We're always going to be looking for stuff and always trying to find feathers and But yeah, going back to the garden, we found nests as well.
Yeah,
again.
Lots of nests. They could be old nests. They could be nests of sparrows. They could be nests of owls. They could be nests of corvids. You know.
I saw a magpie sneaking out of one of them.
Yeah.
We just looked like sparrowhawk nest again.
Yeah, but the trees were blowing around a lot in the wind, and I don't know if any of them would be sheltered enough. So I don't know if there is a sparrow nest there, if they'd be somewhere a bit more sheltered within the garden.
We'll go back again.
We'll go back again, definitely. The other thing to say is just the sort of some real mysteries. You know, I guess maybe because it's a pine forest, it's a lonely cottage. There's a sort of mysterious vibe there. You know, it's very dark underneath the pine canopy, and there's just a sort of to me it was a very mysterious sort of place, you know. And the mystery, there's a couple of specific mysteries that make it mysterious, which is that I found a pile of feathers.
Say it.
I found a pile of sparrowhawk feathers, which looked like they'd been, I don't know, either plucked or sort of somehow simultaneously molted. They're like almost two complete wings. We'll put a picture on not two complete wings, but they're feathers from both wings, large numbers of feathers from two different wings. And they're beautiful. It's a musket. It's a male sparrowhawk. And it was underneath very low pine branches on the sort of pine needle floor. And I have no idea why it would be there. You know, was it eaten by another sparrowhawk? Was it maybe killed by an owl? Because this is the other thing. So we think that long-eared owls are nesting in there or have nested in there. And Anya reckons there's an ongoing turf war between the long-eared owls and the sparrowhawks. Because we also found long-eared owl feathers that had been plucked. So something killed a long-eared owl or plucked its feathers out after it had been killed. So
I think I have two theories about sparrowhawk feathers. So one of them is that the sparrowhawks, the couple, the pair that nest in the woodland, they ganged up and went and killed this owl, and then the owls retaliated and decided to finish them off, and they killed the musket. In which case, probably we will not see any eggs or chicks this year.
You think it was that recent?
Well, second theory is that an established couple live in this really, really small, very desirable, let's call it almost like the Manhattan of the woodlands around. You know, it's a very desirable place with lots of birds nesting. And then potentially another musket tried to interfere and settle down. So the female goes, right, I'm going to go and kill them.
Or the musket.
Or the musket, yeah. And so they, obviously we don't know if they really eat each other. Maybe they didn't eat him, but they just killed him. It does happen. Females are really large and males are quite aggressive as well. If they defend their small territory, they probably... And the reason I'm thinking that is because actually the couple that took the Sparrowhawk from this place said that the Sparrowhawk was very, very aggressive. Very aggressive. When they hunted it, they had to wear goggles. Protective goggles. Because whenever they wanted to pick it up from the kill, it would try and foot them. And it would try and go for the face. So I'm just saying, we might be dealing with a pair of very aggressive sparrowhawks.
You think that the type of sparrowhawk, the type of sparrowhawk that you need to be to survive in a place that's as highly contested as that is like extra aggressive?
Yeah. Because like the kind of kills we found, water rail, magpies, they're huge things. Pigeon. We're not talking about tiny, tiny little, blue tits and wagtails that we've been finding so far, or, tree creepers. We're talking about huge birds.
Yeah.
And, that means that the female must be pretty strong and experienced and aggressive. Yeah. So we'll definitely go back. And
yeah.
But, I don't know how we're going to solve this mystery with the owl. It's fascinating. It's really fascinating to me. Who ate the owl? Was it tasty? Yeah. So that's pretty much all we have for today, I guess. I don't know. Do you have anything else to add? Looking for feathers is like foraging, isn't it? For mushrooms or something. You just want to. Once you find one, you just want to keep looking.
Yeah.
It's quite intense though. We tend to spend 2.5 hours every time we go out somewhere. We don't even realize how the time just goes past us. We just walk into the woods. We think we're just going to do a quick tour around it, and then 2.5 hours later, completely covered in mud, with wet feet, hungry, we emerge.
Yeah, with pockets stuffed full of feathers.
Yeah.
Camera full of pictures.
Yeah, my hat covered in brambles and twigs and everything. And you never see anybody. We never ever see anybody else walking. And the woodland is so dense, and we're talking about small, not large sort of areas of woodland, but it's quite wild. I think it's very, very wild. Sort of a place where you imagine a boar or a wolf sometime. Maybe we should reintroduce somebody. Right, okay. This is for another podcast.
Who do you want to reintroduce?
I don't know. Snakes. I think a wolf.
Just one.
Just maybe a pack of them would be a very good idea around here. Just to get all those people in the pub talking more, Just imagine the conversations I'll be having. It'll be like the highlight of my knitting club, talking about wolves attacking somebody. Look at that wolf. Isn't he gorgeous? Right, I hope no members from my knitting group are listening to this.
Well, they'll be impressed at your impression of them, I'm sure.
I can't really do the good Irish accent, but I'll practice. We're also thinking, actually, so sort of running ahead of sort of things a bit. We obviously we don't know if we will have a sparrowhawk, but if we do, we're actually looking for a name for the sparrowhawk. So this will be, I don't know if anybody is interested in thinking about it. We will be very happy to hear.
Okay.
You guys, come up with
Great
a name.
idea.
We might. I don't know. We might pick the name that you choose.
Yeah.
So far,
do we retain ultimate veto?
We
or
do.
We're going to put it up for a public vote.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, we could do a public vote depending how many entries we've got. So if you have friends and yourself, you can just ask around and just ask them. Next time you're at work, just go. Oh, what do you think a good name for a sparrowhawk would be? Just to dazzle them,
a great idea.
Yeah.
So it's likely to be a female. If we do if we find a nest, we can get to it. We can take a chick, and we have a choice of chicks, chick sizes. We hopefully going to try and get a female. So we're looking for a name for a female hawk.
But some instructions as well. You don't want it to sound scary or terrifying.
Yeah,
It has to be something.
There is that kind of thing, isn't there?
Yeah.
People don't want to give their hawks names that are too martial or aggressive because it's meant to be bad luck from a hunting point of view.
Yeah.
So they give them these slightly odd or goofy names or plain names almost.
Yeah.
So I think, but I mean, feel free to,
whatever.
Just, Gnasher, Thrasher, whatever, all those ones.
And also, if you have any questions about anything that we've talked so far, if there's some jargon that you don't understand, or
or just any aspects,
any things that you wanted to ask us, we'll be really happy to. We'll be really delighted to hear from everybody and answer your questions in the next podcast.
Yeah. So get in touch.
Really, 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 it would be really nice to hear from everyone.
You can. Well, I was going to say you can email us, you can tweet us, you can message us on Facebook, you can call us on the telephone.
You can write us a letter.
This is starting to sound like that All Saints song. I think that's a good time to stop.
Okay, well, speak to you next week, hopefully, or in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
By the time you finish editing this podcast, this episode. Lots of love from us.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye.